As you know, the Citizens Coalition for Change, as led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa, started a program, what we call the Elections Watch, where we brief members of the media, Zimbabweans, different stakeholders, and the people of Zimbabwe and abroad on our engagement with the electoral processes in Zimbabwe. You know that elections in Zimbabwe have been contested for several years, and we made it very clear in our launch as an alternative government that we must be able to test the capacity of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to conduct its constitutional mandate, which is to hold free, fair and credible elections. So today, you know that for the past few weeks, there's been a lot of activities and developments in the entire body politic of our country in relation to the electoral process, the by-election, as it was declared for the 26th of March 2022. So we deployed a team of experts as an alternative to look into the following issues. Number one, we looked into the voters' roll. You know that the voters' roll is an area of contestation. We highlight this in our reform agenda as an alternative, that there are 7 critical issues that we made the world aware of that we think are critical if we are to hold free, fair and credible elections. And one of it is the issue of the voters' roll. You saw a lot of revelations in different media platforms, complaints by ordinary Zimbabweans, registered voters, on a number of issues and possible chicanery that is happening within the voters' roll. So we are going to be speaking about that. Secondly, we are also going to be speaking today about the issue of the voter registration process, the Blitz registration program, where we basically want to highlight to the people of Zimbabwe, to you members of the Fourth Estate, and different partners around our engagement and views. And thirdly, we are also going to be speaking about the electoral environment in general. You know that there is a menu of manipulation that has been exposed and has been a problem in the history of our country. So we want to speak about issues around patronage, problems around issues of harvest of fear, the level playing field. You know that we are going to be holding our inaugural Star Rally. So we'll talk about the activities of the electoral process as part and parcel of the Elections Watch press brief that we're going to do today. To my right, I've got the Deputy Secretary for Elections in the Citizens Coalition for Change, Shiriedenga Ellen, and to my left, respectable Councillor, our Secretary for Elections, Ian Magoni, whom I'm going to defer all the proceedings to, so that he can give you our statement as an alternative. After that, we can then be able to take questions. I thank you. Councillor.
I can see it. Thank you, Ostalos. We meet again since our last get together at the media center, and we are going to try and continue interacting with yourselves throughout the course of this campaign, and more particularly the voter registration process, which goes beyond the by-elections. In the last 2 days, certain pronouncements have been made by ZEC regarding the various matters pertaining to the voters' roll and the voter registration process, which we'd like to comment on and hopefully come to a common understanding with ZEC as to what needs to be done. I don't want to dwell on too many issues, but as Ostalos has highlighted, the voters' roll is critical in everything that is going to happen. The voter registration process is critical even before we start talking about the by-elections. We are ready to engage with ZEC as an individual political party or in conjunction with other stakeholders, because these issues affect us all. Let me start off with the voters' roll. And I want to highlight two things again in relation to the voters' roll. We have been analyzing the 2018 voters' roll in relation to the 2022 voters' roll, which has been distributed by ZEC. And certain anomalies are mind-boggling. We have a case of displaced voters. He give a typical example. In Chitungwiza South, Unit M, we got 2 residents, 2 women. One has been allocated to a polling station in Ward 14, and the other has been allocated to a polling station in Ward 24. Same residence, same address, and that is clear. If nothing worries us, then I don't know what it is going to be. It doesn't make sense, and we would like to suggest that one of the 2 women is going to have a rude awakening on the 26th of March, when she will have to track down quite a few polling stations before she finally lands at the correct one. Not all of us have got access to these gadgets, the smartphones, to be able to check from the comfort of your sofa. Majority do not have that. There's a second issue, which is in the last 2 days in Mabuku, during the current registration process. Members of the same household, one has been allocated a polling station in Mabuku Tafara as a constituency, and the other has been allocated to a polling station in Harare East. So again, it shows there's a pattern of displacement, which if we don't handle at this time, is going to affect the accuracy of the results. The second element of the voters' roll, which is unearthing, are disappearing voters' roll, disappearing polling stations, merged polling stations, and new polling stations that appear in the new voters' roll. And we are deeply concerned. We have got that information, which we're prepared to share with the press, but we've also made it known to ZEC. If we do not consult with ZEC, then we are all in breach of Section 51 of the Electoral Act, which requires ZEC to consult with us over the issues of polling stations. And that, more than that, any new polling station or disappearing polling station as a result of some legitimate processes should be gazetted. I am not aware of any gazette where polling stations have been merged, polling stations have been surfaced or removed. Let me move on. The disparity between 2018 and 2022 becomes clearer when you look at the classic case of Kwekwe Central. We have a total of 1,452 persons that transferred in to Kwekwe Central. Of that number, no less than 600 persons have been transferred from Mbizo, which is next door to Kwekwe Central. When you transfer, which is a normal thing to happen, you make a declaration of your new address. When that declaration is false, it is illegal. Now we have proof that at one particular address, 49 persons have designated them as their residential address. And it's number 1 Harare Road, Kwekwe. If there was a house to talk about, I would say maybe the crowd in there. But there's no house at all. So it's uninhabitable, that particular address. A quick survey in the area of the persons that supposedly transferred has indicated to us that they are not known at those declared addresses. We therefore insist that a detailed survey be undertaken among all those persons that are reflected as having transferred from one constituency to the next since 2018. One other aspect which is equally disturbing is the case of Glen View, Glen View South and Glenora. Glenora itself has been attractive to no less than 2,000 people that transferred in from various constituencies. But the most remarkable transfers are those from Glen View South, specifically Ward 31. We have persons that transferred from a polling station in Ward 31 to polling stations in Ward 27 and Ward 28 of Glenora constituency. If we could show that the individual has changed address, it is their legal entitlement to transfer their vote. But it is the same basic addresses. These are persons that continue to reside in Ward 31 of Glen View South. And yet, come elections, they would have us that they are now living in Glenora. And what begs us all is, what is the reason behind it all, if not to affect the electoral outcome? Enough said about the voters' roll, and we can continue to engage. And the message here to all citizens is that it is as much of interest to yourselves as citizens as it is to political parties. We are really doing ourselves a lot of harm in terms of the legitimacy of the electoral outcome. And it's important that we highlight these issues before it happens. Voter registration. In November of last year, ZEC advised us, and I was present when they did so, that they would be conducting a voter registration blitz starting on the 6th of December. And then a moment later, they advised us that no, that blitz would not go ahead on the 6th of December, or starting on the 6th of December, but rather be moved to February. by which time they would have coordinated their efforts with the Registrar General's office. We didn't argue. It made sense. Then they make an announcement that the blitz will start on the 1st of February, which was really out of the blue, and our informal interaction with them had led us to believe that it would be on the 22nd of February. But again, we didn't argue, only to find that it was a unilateral decision by ZEC without consultation, so we are told, with Ministry of Home Affairs. I don't normally speak on behalf of that ministry, but in this case, I think they are right. Something is clearly wrong between the coordination, in the coordination between those two offices, which is going to cost us our democratic dividends. The net result is that this voter registration came off to a very slow start. There is no motivation, particularly among the youngsters who do not have IDs. Even in 2017 and the earlier part of 2018, when we introduced the BVR system, there was a degree of coordination. Friction, but coordination nevertheless. And we asked for no less. So these issues, the implications of this disjuncture between the two offices impact on the delimitation process. And it's important that you as the press have a good understanding of why we say it impacts on delimitation. We've got a population census due, I think, at the end of April. We have the delimitation process scheduled in the ZEC timeline for August. Anyone that misses the registration blitz whenever it is running is in danger of not being part of the delimitation process when it happens. We have sought confirmation from ZEC that anyone who is unregistered, whether they've got an ID now or they don't have an ID now, should be a candidate for the delimitation process whenever it happens. That assurance has not been given. And so we have a bond to chew, is that the right word? Yeah, with ZEC. But I think these are not matters that are insurmountable. Our estimate is that this country is good for 9 million registered voters. We're currently sitting on just under 6 million. So therefore, the estimate of persons without IDs, which Ministry of Home Affairs verbally to me said is 2 million, and I agree with that, plus others that did not make it in the voter registration, the BVR system in 2017-2018. So we have got a national target of new registrations that we must achieve of 3 million. And it's a national target that everybody should work towards. So we really look to the press to continue in your efforts, variously urging particularly young unregistered voters to take up their citizenship, citizen rights and responsibilities, go forward and register. When you look at the demographics of our population, it is clear that the future is in these young people. And if we do not make provision for them to make the first step on the ladder, then future generations will blame us. Sure, okay, I've got it. So I've talked about delimitation. Next, let me deal with the electoral environment as we see it at present. In other environments, there's no need once a proclamation has been announced for the kind of restrictions that we see happening all around us. We have our activists prevented from engaging in car rallies, engaging in discourse, and in within the confines of the COVID regulations, do what they wish to do. There is the case of our councillor candidate in Weza, who was brutally assaulted by 6 ZANU-PF thugs. They are still out there free, roaming free. Nothing has happened to them. And the intention, we need to make it very clear, is to instill fear. But let me make it very, very clear that this time around, no amount of this kind of intimidation and violence is going to deter an idea which is now ripe. So the perpetrators of violence should really just rethink the act, because this is old solutions to new problems and they won't work. We have also had our National Organizing Secretary arrested for conducting a car rally in an during an electoral period. And I see our Vice President Babiti here, arrested for what reason? He doesn't know, but just arrested. Now, it's that kind of irritation which is totally unnecessary. But I must emphasize that we will not be deterred. Other key reforms which are part of our 7, the 7 that Ostalos referred to, include the public media. By now, we should be having equal treatment at the ZEC, the national print media, but none of that is happening. And ZEC has a legal responsibility to oversee the free treatment among political players in this case. So the challenge we've faced, we throw it back at ZEC, do your job. So, just to round up, I thank you for affording us the opportunity to make these observations. And we'll be happy to interact some more. And we'll be happy to engage with you through our communications people of any facts that you require. We thank the citizens from the bottom of our hearts that they're taking a personal and a keen interest in national affairs to a larger extent than they've done before. Be they analysts, because we don't know it all, be they practitioners, because we're not all perfect ourselves. It's all gelling together. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We will take questions as per the tradition. You introduce yourself for the purpose of our own records and clarity, and then you can go ahead. So maybe I'll take the first 3. Yes, and then Ru. Yeah, you can go.
Thank you. My name is Dyson, 216 chat. You made a number of observations with regards to voters' roll. Have you formally engaged with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and if so, what was their response?
Okay.
My name is Rutenda Mawere. Councillor Makwana, outside the issue of IDs, during your previous engagements with the media, you had said that you have millions and millions of unregistered voters. How come the Blitz has very low numbers nationwide?
Okay. Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Blessed Mita. ZEC has issued a statement dismissing all the allegations that you have made, and you so insist on those allegations. On what basis do you do so in relation to the press statement released by ZEC?
Okay, thank you. You can take a few.
Thank you very much. Let me start off with the question of what engagement there has been, which then partly addresses your issue regarding we are talking about the same issues. We're talking at each other with ZEC. You probably were not quite here yet, but in my opening remarks I said we would dearly love to engage with ZEC. But they went ahead and made certain pronouncements which we felt it necessary to respond. That is the response. We are able to prove any of the points that I've raised. So if they've got points to prove what they've said and we engage, it can only be good for the country. So yes, what I'm saying, ZEC already knows. So we don't want to talk behind their backs, and we don't want them to talk behind our backs either. And then the second question you asked relates to the low turnout. As I said at the beginning, we are very concerned. But bear in mind that at household level, you have probably as many young people with IDs as without IDs. And we must not underplay the impact of that dejectedness among those without IDs has on people who otherwise would have taken the trouble to go and register. But let me take you back to 2017, 2018, the 2017 when BVR was first introduced. I walked the streets myself, and for the first 2 or 3 weeks, it was like we're knocking at doors without people inside there. It's a normal thing at the beginning of such a process for the reaction to be slow. But a tipping point registered 3 weeks into the first BVR, and we saw the numbers of people on the streets. So let us not be discouraged by the low initial turnout. I can assure you that if we maintain the campaign that we hear both on social media, at family level, and at community level, you will get the numbers. This figure of 9 million that I said should be the national target is not a creation of CCC. It is an independently generated figure, which I can only believe to be realistic. So they are there. So our challenge is to find them. Let me give you another example. Approximately 10 or 11% of our national population are people living with disability. Yet how many of those are registered? We have all got a collective guilt as Zimbabweans of hiding them in the back rooms and not assisting them to assert their democratic rights like any other citizen. Secondly, we have the terrible situation of Matabeleland and parts of Midlands. A lot of people there without with IDs, victims of Gukurahundi. We all know that, and yet we pretend that it didn't happen and that they don't need IDs. So I went all over, but I really wanted to paint the picture that we haven't even started scratching the surface. It's as much the responsibility of political parties as it is of citizens in general. Thank you.